All right, I'm moving on to my least favorite part of working on cars, wiring. Sensors laid out here, or at least a few of them. We're doing trim pot, so like to select different boost levels. We've got 2 pressure sensors, oil pressure, fuel pressure. We've got our MAC valve or boost control solenoid, and an intake air temperature sensor, intake air temp sensor. And this is the sensor, well, the sensor's already out of here, that I'm going to be using for oil pressure and for fuel pressure. So the fuel pressure one, right there on the fuel pressure regulator. Even though it says that it shouldn't be attached to anything that's going to vibrate, oh well, it's got a nice little fitting that converts it right to it. And if you'll see, it's 1/8 NPT. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that bolt right there. That one. All right, so I'm going to replace that bolt right there with this bolt because it has a little, it's been tapped. Allegedly, this is from a Lexus motor, Lexus 2J. And you'd be like, sweet, this will bolt right up or screw right in. No, this is like 1/8 British pipe BP ST ABC. So I got a little conversion, little piece here from, China. But it converts it 1/8 inch BSPT to MPT. And it goes in really nice. So it'll be like that. It'll be like that. Beautiful. And let's hope we've got 3 inches. Hopefully it's not going to hit anything. Looks like it'll be all right. But if it hits something, then we'll get a new plan, but it should be okay. But that is how I'm going to run the oil pressure for Haltech. For the Haltech 2500. MAC valve, I am using DP03 wastegate solenoid, not VSV, wastegate solenoid, and that's for our MAC valve. I am marking AVIs. This is AVI 6, which is our O2 sensor, oxygen sensor 1, AVI 6, pin B12, which came from that plug right there. That little end I snipped off. And I opened up the harness here to make it better because all the sensors I'm going to get to are 1, 2, and 3 oil pressure sensor down there. So I've also marked off AVI 7 and AVI 5, which are both on the mass airflow sensor. And AVI 7, well, AVI 5 is our mass airflow signal 1, and AVI 7 is our air temperature sensor for the GTE models. So pulling those out, and all I'm doing here is, so what do we got? We got like a pink with a blue stripe. So you follow that all the way through the harness. And then, if you look in here, you've got the beautiful pink and blue right there. So I'm just gonna pull that through and make it look a hell of a lot better than running a wire from all the way over here, like through the motor. But yeah. And this is absolutely why I hate wiring. So if you're soldering 2 wires together, that's one thing. But this, frickin' hate this. So this gauge of wire is too thick for this gray bushing to fit on and fit through the plug end. in the back of this thing. So can't use that. And then crimping this thing, if you don't have that tool, oh my God, I pray for you. And turns out this tool I got only can crimp the back part, which thank freaking God. And it crimps it like so the top bends in and grabs onto the wire. Otherwise, to get this first one to actually crimp on the wire in there, on the copper wire, I'm using that and that to like bend it around and clamp it down. And Jesus, it is a pain in the ass. I hate wiring. And a little rundown of what's been done so far. The MAC valve, which I got from DP03, the wastegate solenoid from the stock wiring harness. It came from over here, and it is the blue wire with the white stripe over here. And hook that up into the MAC valve. Next is fuel pressure, which comes from the MAP plug. Signal was from the mass airflow plug, which was right here. And I took the yellow and red wire, which is this one right in there. I'm sure you can see it, yellow red. And also from the mass airflow, that yellow red wire goes to AVI 5, and then that's for fuel pressure. And then for oil pressure, I used another one from the mass airflow. Oh, nope. And for oil pressure, I used the O2 sensor plug right here. I can feel the short wire. There's the cut wire. You can see it there. It is white. I don't know if there's a stripe on it, but I am connecting that to AVI 6. I still got to do the trim, rotary trim knob in there, but intake air sensor is also coming from the mass airflow. For AVI 7, the red and blue, which is that one, which is realistically more pink. So I pulled the ones from the O2 sensor and the mass airflow sensor out of the harness right here. I just traced them back. Just be careful, because there was a second yellow and red wire in here that was not for the mass airflow. So there's two in here. Make sure you get the right one. Just use a multimeter. You can check continuity. And again, I pulled them out of the harness right there. And I'm running my intake air temperature sensor here. You can see, what is it? Purple, blue. Yellow, red goes down there. And the O2 sensor wire is shielded. Can't hurt, right? Can't hurt. It's just bigger. But it's a little bit of a wiring mess in there. Next time this motor comes out after it breaks. Joking, right? Joking. We don't never want it to break, but hey, stuff breaks. So then that's the oil pressure sensor right there. Fuel pressure sensor right there. And intake air temp sensor right there. A lot of work for not really much visually done. Yeah, I just hate wiring. One other thing I forgot to mention is I'm getting my 5-volt reference from the blue wire with the pink stripe. Right, I think that's what this is. And my sensor ground from the brown wire from the map, which sits right here from the manifold pressure sensor, which is this. Sits there, 3 wires, unplugged it, not using it. But that is what I took my 5-volt and sensor ground from that I'm using for all of these sensors here. So with the Haltech, there's an internal map sensor, which we are going to be using. So here's my vacuum hose. And I am going to run it, which seems like one of the easier ways. I drilled or ripped that out. I drilled ever so carefully. And this is what was in there. So it looks like, you know, that is what it'll look like. And when it comes out, this is what it is. It's just like a little nipple. I don't know. Whatever. But it ripped it off almost in a perfect circle. I got a light behind there just so I could better see and not nick a wire, which did a really good job actually. And I'll probably, once I get the vacuum line in there nice and where I want it, I'll probably RTV around it just to make sure. But I'm gonna run it out through there and then get the light up through here, which right here I'm touching the charcoal canister, which is that, and it'll come out right there. And I'll run it all the way across there to the intake manifold, probably right there. I would have loved to run it inside and then out, but there's really, I'm not putting a hole in the firewall over there. As I was cutting a hole or drilling a hole for the vacuum line, I got an idea. I said earlier that I didn't want to put a hole in the firewall, and the oxygen sensor is going to require to go through the firewall, so I ran that up, down, behind the charcoal canister, in behind the fender liner, and I made the hole a wee bit bigger, and thank goodness for rubber, because I'm just going to jam it in there. Look at that. And it's in. Awesome. Still plenty of room for the vacuum line too. Alright, so let's get the vacuum line in there. And now let's see what the other side looks like. Get the light out of the way. There's the vacuum line. And yes, the wideband. Oh man, that's awesome. I'd recommend that spot. That's pretty sweet. All right, and all I did was I unhooked this one orange plug, and that's gone right back on. Cool. I hate wiring part 4. I don't know. Part like, will this wiring ever end? Now is I am using my auxiliary connector, which looks like this, for my final input, which will be my trim pot. And the trim pot is this. It will select different boost levels, and there's 12 different positions, and it regulates the voltage, and it will increase or decrease the boost level at whatever number you have it set at. So I am going to use So we'll make it really simple, right? You need 5 volts. So I'm going to use pin number 6, which is right there, which is my white wire. Pin number 6. Here. Will that help? Yep. Pin number 6 right there up in the top corner. All right, next, I need a signal, which was, I'm going to use AVI 3, pin number 8. Pin number 8 is second from the bottom on the right. That's my blue wire. Second from the bottom on the right. And lastly, we need a signal ground. Signal ground, I'm going to go with number 9. You can use number 10, just like with 12 plus the 5 volt, you could use number 7, but that's not what I did. So number 9, it's right, 3 in from the right on the bottom. 3 in from right on the bottom, I used black. So I'm going to plug and then, let me show you with a pair of pliers. And then they have this little plug thing, that orange thing in there. You jam it down in there so that these wires stay in place. You've got to crimp these on the end of a wire. I'm using 18 gauge wire. You should probably use 20 gauge wire, because 20 gauge wire would make it fit a lot nicer. I had to really squeeze this orange connector in there. I wasn't too crazy about the fit, but they're in there, and that is that. I'm not taking that thing back out. All right, next is to plug it in and set it up in my software. So I just clown myself pretty hard here. This connector, the wires come in from this way. So in the metal prongs will be right there, because this plugs, this is the way it plugs into the harness. Right here, click. So the wires need to be coming out the back. So I had this in completely backwards like an idiot. All right, sitting in the car, and I'm just cracking up at myself because I just screwed this up so bad the first time. This is how it should look. Look at that, so much nicer. And that orange plug in there, man, that just goes in so nice and smooth. I mean, I'd say read the directions first, but there were no directions. I don't know. Use common sense. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. I have no excuses. You just gotta laugh at yourself sometimes, or else you just go freaking nuts. All right, and just to finish up this little plug end that's gonna plug into my rotary trim pot that I got hidden right under here. I like that little area. That's where I have mine at. Right, so this is the plug. That's where the male wire ends are. This is the female wire ends. And this is the harness view, right? So it's that way. I've got 1, 2, and 3. Don't worry about those colors because they're irrelevant. But we got plus 5 volts in 1, signal in 2, and 3 is signal ground. So 3 is signal ground, black, signal ground. Blue is 8, AVI 3, that's our signal. Blue, AVI 3 is our signal. And power 5 volts is pin 1. Pin 1 is white. White is our 5 volt. And number 6, that's down at my feet at this point.